invitation, Reverend Warren. So my message today is titled, What's Next? And that might be a question you might be asking yourself, or maybe not. The thing is that if you have been attending services these past 2 months, or working a prosperity program, then your minds are consciously or subconsciously asking this question, what's next? What's next for me? What's next for me to do? What's next in my life? Some of you are in the Unlimited Abundance Society and have been attending that. Some of you are using your little notebooks. How many people have your little notebooks? Yeah? Are you using them? Yeah. And then some might just be receiving the handouts and stuff from the messages that we've been having over these last few months. But even if you're not doing any of those things and not really working a program, you're still getting a prosperity message. You're still living from that consciousness of prosperity, whether you know it or not, because we are all living in that unlimited abundance of God, right? As our ultimate source of all that there is. So this week we're going to explore our abundance and figure out how to consistently tap into the natural law of prosperity with ease and grace while we figure out what's next. But first let us affirm our statements together, please. I am deserving. I'm sorry. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now. So what's next? Where can we take it from here? That's the question. We have learned some tools of prosperity from Reverend Edwin Gaines' text, the 4 spiritual laws of prosperity, and from our messages and handouts and our little notebooks, and from your own consciousness, believe it or not, because once you start focusing in on a concept or a spiritual idea, believe it or not, you've opened up a door. You've opened up that space in your mind to allow what is naturally there, what is being fed through you as you from God. You've opened that up and allowed it to come forth. But these are tools for prosperity, all of this that we're doing. They're just tools. And unless we use them, it's not going to do us any good, is it? It's our choice to use these tools or not. We can hear these messages play in our head and we can ignore them, or we can focus in on them, hone into them, and allow them to manifest or demonstrate in our lives. But how many of you have ever purchased a kitchen gadget that you thought you just had to have? I just grabbed this one real quick this morning. Some of you might know what it is right now. Mark was a pretty good guesser. He said it's either a thing to scrape the stuff off your foot or a fruit thing. Which I said, yeah, it kind of looks like that, doesn't it? But we get these silly things like this. Or we buy a new yard tool or something, and we think, oh, we've got to have this thing. I mean, it's going to make our lives so much easier. And we use it once, and then what do? Push it to the back of the cabinet, stuff it in the back of the garage. We just think, okay, this is too much a pain in the rear to use. Or we use it once and we think, okay, this was fun, but when am I going to use it again? And how many times have we spent money on those things and not ever even used them, let alone the idea that we might have even, like one time I wanted a bread maker. Anybody ever do that? So I even said, you can give it to me for my Christmas present. Little did I know that I could have had a diamond necklace. But I chose the bread maker. Well, guess where the bread maker went? To the basement, never to arise until we moved 10 years later. I was like, what is that thing? How do you even use it? Oh, yeah, that's the bread maker. Made 2 loaves, and that was enough of that. Go to the store and buy it a lot cheaper and a lot more fun. But we do that. We miss out on some of the good stuff that happens because we think we have to have this silly thing, right? And how often do we do this? How often do we ask for something and then do nothing? You might want a new job and you do nothing. You don't like your job and the only thing you do is complain. You do not like where you live and you want a new home. And yet all you think about is being stuck in where you're living. You've had a car for a very long time and you need to get a new car. You don't want the payments, but you just keep putting it off because you think you don't want the payments. And yet you're going to have the payments in order, or either save your money up, which you haven't done over the last 5 years, to buy this new car. But you do nothing. You just live in that, it's like you're on the hamster wheel. Like this. You long for true love, and you stay at home every night eating and crying. You know, how many people do that? You feel like none of your friends care about you and you are all alone. But do you pick up the phone and call anybody? Do you say, hey, let's go to lunch? No, you sit at home going, oh, nobody likes me. Yeah. And of course, in all of this misery that we have compounded in our own minds, what do we think about first? I don't have the money. I don't have the money to do this. I can't afford anything. I can't even pay my bills, let alone think about going out to lunch with somebody. You know, and what are we? We're miserable, aren't we? We're miserable through this whole process because we have put ourselves in that picture. We dropped our bodies right into that movie and we're playing that scene. Then what happens? We ask this silly question. Where is the prosperity in this? We're just miserable. We're sitting there thinking, where's prosperity? I'm supposed to be learning about prosperity. Prosperity is supposed to be happening in my life. And we give up, don't we? And you see what that is on the other side there, don't you? Diamonds. The guy's mining, all gung-ho in the beginning, and quits. Or just doesn't follow through. You know, he's like, okay, I'm done with this. And we do that, don't we? Yeah. But how do we get to the next level? You know? What are we supposed to do to get to the next level? You guys ever watch Shark Tank? I love that show, yeah. Sandra's like, yeah. Well, these people come in with, if you haven't ever watched it, here's what happens. These people come in with these businesses that they've created, you know, or ideas that they've created. Now, there's some that are very successful, and they walk in, the Shark Tank guys are like, why are you even here? But they're there, you know, to get that free advertising. But they come in, and yet, even though they're on that verge of, and some of them come in already making millions of dollars, but they'll come in and they'll sign up with a shark, you know, and give them a certain percentage of their business just so that they can have that extra that next level that they're searching for. There's some people that go in there, they have a little idea. They haven't developed it. They don't even know how to develop it. They don't even know where to go next. They don't know the next step. They just got this great idea. And sometimes the Shark Tank guys say, yeah, I want to help you develop this. But a lot of times they say, go back and keep doing what you're doing, and eventually you'll get to this level. But these people are frustrated because they don't know how to get to the next level. And the whole thing is that they do know how, or else they wouldn't have got to where they were right then. But they think they need other people to make them get to the next level. And you might be in that position sometime in your life, but if you truly go within and find what you need to do, you'll find out what the next level is. But when you don't have a clue of what the next step is or what is next in your life, then you can move towards that goal, you know. But we get stuck, don't we? We just get stuck sometimes. We know we want to work towards our goals. We've written them down in our little notebooks, or we've made our little list of what we want, and then we close the notebook and never do another thing. It is as if we are waiting for someone else to come and help us. Like we're waiting for those shark guys to come knock on our door and say, hey, come on, I'll help you do it. And when all we really need to do is take the next step. You know, just take that next step. Perfect example, video games. I don't play myself because they drive me crazy. But some people play video games, you know, and they're like, 90-0 playing video games, and they say, oh, I'm just going to get to the next level. I'm just going to get to the next level. They get to the next level, and then they go, I'm getting to the next level. Well, I mean, the video games are never going to end. They're going to just keep creating new levels to get to. And but you think you're going to get to that ultimate high, you know. I'm going to get to the very top. I'm going to be the winner. Nobody else can ever get to that high. You know, it used to be like the pinball games when we played them when we were younger at the bar, you know. Those would have the numbers up there, and they'd say who the high score was with your initials or whatever. And I guess video games probably do the same thing. But there's never a top level. They just keep going, don't they, Mark? Don't they? Whoever plays them, I don't play them. So the whole thing is, though, that what happens is you don't ever reach the high that you want to reach. And if we would take some of that OCD to play the video games and use it in our prosperity programs, guess what? We would be very successful, wouldn't we? If we just take that same kind of energy and keep making it go. But most of the time we just ask, what's next? Or we forget about our plan altogether, don't we? You know, how many people have taken like different prosperity courses? I mean, I know since we've been here, we've taught Keys to the Kingdom. We taught Catherine Ponder's prosperity before. Now we're working on Charles Fillmore. But you know, setting a plan and following through with it. If you go back and read your material from one of those other courses, you might think, God, I knew that. Or if you did Financial Peace University, we've done that too. You might have read that material and gone, oh yeah, that was a good idea. Why didn't I keep doing that? But we don't. We get stuck. We don't take that next step. We just stay there and we think, what is the next step? You know, and we ask ourselves, what's the next step? But I think the next step is that we have to be willing to receive. Have you thought about that? You know, when I spoke on Mother's Day, I gave a message about the idea of giving and receiving from the aspect of being a mother, and that the ultimate act of giving is from your mother, giving you birth, and the ultimate act of receiving was you receiving the love that you got from your mother at birth. And that is a powerful act, and that is a powerful place to begin. But if we lack the idea of receiving, that could be the roadblock that keeps us from taking us to the next step. You see, if we believe in the truth that God is good and only wants good for us, then we must know that our good is already right here, right now. And when we don't see this, and we question why we haven't gotten it yet, you know, that special thing that we want, do you think it's because we haven't opened our minds to be able to receive it? Yes? No?
Yes.
I think our hearts desire things, you know, or our hearts desire that higher spiritual understanding. I mean, I know that it does. But the problem is our minds can't always perceive it. You know, we see a great car out there and we think, oh, boy, that's really cool. So we're sitting there going, yeah, you know, I would love to have that car. Oh, but then we go back to that. I don't want the car payment. I can't afford it. All those negative thoughts of lack, right? That's what it ends up being. And the thing is that we are worthy of the good. But we have probably been taught somewhere along the way that we weren't worthy, that we weren't good enough, that God, you know, doesn't have good in store for us, that isn't ours to have. And that's a bunch of baloney. All we have to do is flip that switch, and we flip the switch in our minds. The law of cause and effect states that if we think we can't have it, we will not have it. And it also states that if we say we can have it, we will have it. Everybody believe that?
Yes.
I hope so, because it is our choice, and nothing from our past can keep it from us if we decide to receive it. But we have to be willing to go like this. Everybody go like this with me. Yeah, receive it. It is our choice. And before we can really, truly receive it, we have to ask, don't we? We have to ask for it. We have to know. And there's a great quote, a little parable, actually, a story in the Bible about asking and receiving. And it fits perfectly into our prosperity program. And it's from Jesus, and I know you all know it, so you can read it with me. Ask, search, and knock. Ask, and it will be given you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. I love that photo too, with all the doors opening, because it's not just one door. It's a multitude of doors just ready to just boom, 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 open up in front of us. And I think it's pretty clear that God is willing to give us what we ask for at any given time if we take the next step. Because we can ask for something different in our life and sit on our bottoms and never do a thing, right? And what are we doing? We're just living in lack, cutting off our good. Well, years ago, I learned a very important concept, and I want to share that with you. I used to plan everything out to the minute. I mean, I still do a little bit, but not as bad. But, you know, like if we went on vacation, I did research on where we were going. And I timed out everything from the moment we left the house to where we were going, what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, where we were going to eat, because I researched the best restaurants and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we went to Disney, and I made an itinerary and found out from people the map of Disney. I got it, and they told me which rides were the best and which ones had the longest lines, and we got the passes. And I got the map and planned out how we could, do the quick pass at some of the rides and then go back and ride another one in between and come back for the quick pass. I mean, I had it all scheduled out down. This was for not only me and Warren and the 3 kids, but it was also for my daughter-in-law and my oldest son. So there were 7 of us I was planning all this for, I mean, and if you've ever been that kind of person that plans everything out down to the minute, you know how it can drive you absolutely crazy, right? Yeah. And you'll drive yourself crazy. I mean, it's just the silliest thing. But I said to myself one time, I don't want this kind of stress in my life anymore. So I was sharing this with a friend of mine who just happened to be a Unity minister. And he said to me, just stop. Just stop doing that. And I'm like, yeah, that's easy for you to say. But the thing was, this is what he told me, which made all the sense to me. He said, all you ever have to do is take the next step. So you're planning a trip. What's your next step? Make reservations, for the plane. Did I really have to make reservations for the hotel? No, you don't anymore. I mean, really, you get better deals if you go online that day. Warren's taught me this. Go online that day, and some of these websites you can get a room that day at nice, 5-star hotels for half the price. That, talk about letting go. Jez's song fits into that one. Anyway, but he said you don't have to plan it all out. You can let go of everything in the future and only do what is next, because God will take care of everything else. And when he said that, I was like, whoa, yeah, that's right. God's in charge, not me, And I have to remind myself that all the time because, I want to try to plan out things way ahead, and you don't have to most of the time. Most of the time, all you have to do is the very next thing you need to do for that particular moment in time, which is a whole different place to be. And the thing is that if we take that in and really live from that, it makes our lives so much easier. When I started taking just the next step, the thing that made a difference was how I enjoyed the activity or whatever it is I was doing. It changed how I enjoyed it. I was no longer stressed out or whacked out or going crazy, or looking at my watch going, it's time to get to the next thing or whatever. No. And the other thing that happened was I enjoyed all the people around me a lot more, So it was about that particular thing, but then when you open up to looking at prosperity, it's the same thing. We don't have to plan out the final goal. Yes, maybe we want to make tons of money, but all we have to do today is look at our list and see what we have written and see what our next step is. Our next step today might be to make a new list. It might be to call somebody up and get some advice. It might not have anything to do with the ultimate goal, and that's okay. And we can let go. And it changes your whole perspective. And when you get confused and you start getting into that place, you can look at the rest of that parable from Matthew 7, which says, and let's read this together. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, will give a stone? Or if the child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? Isn't that beautiful? And isn't that an important thing to think about? Because this is the answer to what we're talking about prosperity in all areas of our life, whether it's health, whether it's financial, whether it's, whatever. I mean, just making decisions. That's a prosperity thing. All of that. And it's easy to get in that place of asking and receiving if we remember this. If we remember that all we have to do is think about how we like to give gifts. I mean, I have a girlfriend that wraps presents like they're a work of art. You ever have anybody do that? And you think, oh my gosh, I mean, it's beautiful. It's like you don't even want to open it up, right? But you're sitting there looking at it going, wow. And you think, and then my next thought is always, God, how much time did you spend on that? Wrong thing to think, right? Because you should enjoy it, and you should accept it, and you should receive it from the same place that this person spent this time making this beautiful piece of art out of wrapping paper, right? And that's the thing. We don't always do that. We don't even do that when we are experiencing that unlimited abundance from God. With this has been one thing about this trip. I've been writing down 90 to nothing in the middle of my book, all the blessings that I've been getting. And when you focus in on that, you realize how much you are blessed and how abundantly blessed you really are. And that's probably one of the most important things in that book once you get beyond forgiving. So please keep track of that for yourself so that you can receive that good that's coming forth. But I think, most of us have been in a place in our lives, haven't we, where we didn't pay attention to receiving something. And we said, oh, that's not ours. But then our friend or some coworker or somebody else got the thing that we had just saw and thought wasn't ours, whether it was a promotion, whether it was another gift, whether it was a piece of furniture somebody was giving away. And then you see it in their house and you're like, whoa, I should have taken that. Whoa, I should have had that promotion. Whoa, I should have had that thing. Anybody do that before? Yeah, we do that. We sit there and think, but who had the opportunity to have it first? We did. And yet we didn't pay attention enough to think, hey, that would have been perfect in my sunroom, or that would have been perfect in my, dining room or whatever. No, we go, ooh. And then we see it in somebody else, oh, we don't know how to receive what is coming to us. And that's what happens with all of our ideas. The divine ideas that are working through us bring us a plethora of things if we stay open and to receiving them. That's all we have to do. We don't have to go to the poor old me place and say, I have nothing. That's not true. Everyone in this room is a beautiful person with beautiful clothing on, nice shoes. I know you probably, if you didn't eat breakfast this morning, you've hit that table out there. So right now, what are you lacking? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And even if you think you are lacking something, guess what? Open your mind and heart, and whatever it is that you think you lack will come rushing forth, because that's how the law of cause and effect work. If we think it, it is so, isn't it? Ernest Holmes wrote a book called Creative Mind, Tapping the Power Within, and he gives us some insight on the subject of lack when we live in lack. Are we saying that there's not enough to go around? If we are saying this, it is our belief, and there is something that will see that it becomes part of our expression. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if we think we don't have it, guess what? We're not going to have it, are we? No, that's what's going to happen. But there is hope, because he says this: we who are claiming the use of the greater law must emancipate ourselves from all sense limitations. We must let go and let God. We must free our minds, and we must say that we are willing to live in the abundance of God. We are willing to receive all that there is for us to receive, whether it's a free meal through the drive-thru, or whether it's a gift that somebody gives us, or whatever. And even if we don't like the gift, we can pass it on and bless somebody else. So what I want you to do right now, those of you that brought your little notebook, pull it out real quick. Those of you that didn't, just open up your bulletin page, because I want you to write down. This is just a little quick deal we're going to do, like 10 seconds or so. I invite you to write down anything that you think. And if you don't have a bulletin, just pull one of those prayer slips or something and a pen from the seat. I invite you to write down anything that you think limits you, or that you feel you are lacking. I don't care what it is. Whether it's education, whatever you think you're lacking, the right connection, whatever it is. I'm going to give you a moment. It could be happiness. You might be thinking you're lacking happiness, patience, whatever. Right now I'm lacking sleep, but I'm going to get that taken care of with an afternoon nap. Okay. Some of you are making a Long list, but that's okay. So what I want you to do with this is I want you to take these words home with you and later look at them and then determine if you need to continue to hold on to those thoughts of lack. And if you do feel like you have to hold on to those thoughts of lack, then go to your little notebooks or go back and think about how you can let go of those thoughts of lack. What can you change to make those no longer thoughts of lack? And if you're willing to release them, then tear up that piece of paper and throw it away. And once you've looked at it and processed it, then still tear it up and throw it away. But spend a little bit of time on that. And I'm going to be a little harsh right now because, you know what? I don't even care what you wrote down. I don't. Because you know why? It's none of my business what you wrote down. Because the only person that can do anything about what you wrote down is who? Yourself, right? You. And so I don't need to know what you wrote down. Nobody in this room needs to know what you wrote down. You have to process it and let go of those thoughts of lack. Because you know what? The truth, the absolute truth is that you are smart enough, that you are healthy enough, that you are strong enough, that you are creative enough, you are thin enough, and whatever you think that lack is just not true. It is an embedded belief in an outright lie. Do you understand that? Whatever you have said you lack is a lie. Because that is not God. That is not living from the place of God in your life. So erase that lie, let go of it, and quit latching on to those thoughts of lack. You know what happens is we get in that stubborn stage, don't we? Anybody here ever get stubborn? I know I can sometimes. But stubbornness will show up when we think that, oh, you don't know anything about me. You don't know that this is how I'm living right now or this is what's going on. That's stubbornness. It's also arrogant thinking because we think we know what is going on in our life and we're not even looking at the truth, are we? And this is where we are ignoring God working in and through us. And we make it all about our ego and being right no matter what. And where does that get us? Absolutely nowhere, does it? No. We can't even begin to take the next step at that point because guess what? You've just taken 10 steps back. So you don't even know how to go forward. But the good news is this. What our minds will make depends absolutely and only upon what we are thinking. And what we will attract will depend entirely upon our holding thought to the complete exclusion of all that would contradict it. So all we have to do is take those lies out of our minds. All we have to do is release any thoughts that aren't truth of us. All we have to do is focus in on truth. And any of those stagnated thoughts of lack and negativity, they're garbage. Throw them away. We don't even have to question truth at this point in our lives. But you know what? And I thought this was kind of an oxymoron, but why do we continually think we always have to be validating the validation? Don't you do that? Well, I just saw this and I read this and I think it's true or it feels truth, but let me do some more research and see if it really is truth. Don't we do that? Or somebody tells us something and we think, well, yeah, I agree with that, but I'm going to go get on the internet. Or let me Google it. You know, that's a new one. We always want to validate whatever it is that we think is true. Validation is to demonstrate or support the truth of, or value of. And all we have to do is change that small t truth to capital T truth, and we know we never have to validate the truth ever again, don't we? Because truth will always be truth, correct?
Yes.
Yes. But the problem is that we get in this place where we, stressed or we're overwhelmed or we're frustrated or we lack enthusiasm and, we start looking at matter, which is the physical aspect of things, rather than the thought ideas of things, the spiritual aspect of things. And the desired outcome, it won't have the next step when we're just looking at the physical things. And when we just look at the physical or matter, we can miss out on the next good thing. I'll admit that prior to selling my business in Wichita, that all I kept thinking about was how much money could I get for the business. and who could qualify for a loan, and how quick could I sell it. I was just going to that idea of matter, of sure physical aspect of the whole thing. But when I finally stopped, and prayed about it, and somebody suggested that I pray about it and let go, I thought, wow, that's a different aspect. And actually, I sold it when I did that. But the thing that happened was I had mentored this girl for 5 years, and she was young, and I thought she was too young to take over the business, But one day I looked around, and I looked at everybody, and I thought, okay, who in here do I trust the most? Who in here do I admire the most? And it was Jenny. And I said, wow, how could I think that she wasn't young enough or that she couldn't get the money? I mean, she didn't own a house. She owned her car, but she didn't own a house. She didn't, she had just gotten married a couple of years before. I didn't know. And so I was like, Jenny is the one I trust. Jenny is the one I admire. Jenny is the one with the most integrity. And I asked her, and she jumped on it. And today I still reap the benefits from that sale. And the thing is that when you look at things from not the idea of matter, when you look at things from the spiritual aspect of thoughts, and you truly go within and see what it is that you want in life. You want a new job, well, don't go to the idea of wanting a new job. Go to what sings to your soul. Go to where your place of integrity is, or your place of admiration, or your place of respect. And then say to yourself, what is it that I could release through those things that are important to me, what I value, and what could I be doing in that aspect of that? Do you see what I'm saying? It's a whole different thing. And it's just another flipping of the switch. It isn't about the outcome. It's about what's going to sing to our soul, and then the outcome will come. And I know that. So we just have to flip our thoughts. It's kind of like setting an intention. And God moved the right person into my vision once I set my intention of wanting somebody that lived from integrity, that lived from that place that I could respect them as much as they respected me. It flipped the whole thing around. And the law of intention says all intentions create. So the question becomes, what are your intentions? Where do you want to come from? Are you aligning with the good that is already here right now? And are you willing to take the next step? Are you? Yes. Are you willing to take the next step? Because when you ask that question, what's next? And when we align our thoughts with truth, the only thing that will be next is... Oops, there's a lot of it. Good! Thank you for being here today. God bless you.